Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Holistic Health Talk. I'm your host, James P. Madonna. I'm here with my co-host, the one and only, the legendary Commodore Jeff Zambello. R. And I am sure, the the awesome perfecto baklava from the Turkish restaurant where you have your lunch in St. John's, right, New Brunswick, Canada. Looks good. With made with walnuts and some pistachios, right, on the outside,
and honey too.
and honey.
Yeah.
Looks good. Looks very good. As usual, as Turkish food usually is. So, how did your week go with your training?
Excellent training, especially yesterday. So Saturdays I have a class with a young man, and that's going very, very well. They're very long classes. Like 2 Saturdays ago, we trained for almost 5 hours. We could have gone longer because CTT, there's hundreds of things to do. And so yesterday was only 3 hours because I had worked. I had to get to my office. And so I had to cut it short to 3 hours.
3 hours.
Sounds funny, but
3 hours is a long
it's
time.
not enough time. I could do seminars for CTT that could last 16 hours. I could do 2 8-hour days, easy.
Well, you would call them workshops.
Yeah. We did everything from Bulgarian split squats to Hindu squats, body weight sit-throughs, Hindu push-ups. I have parallettes at home, and you do the table. Where you bring your belly up to a table with your legs and your hands on the ground, and then you can do triceps, and then there's all kinds of stuff you do with kettlebells for your biceps, and then we also do the dumbbells, the Indian things for the biceps. You keep going on, yes,
yeah, in a circular motion.
Exactly. Yes, you go like this, and then you bring it up, and then you go. It's like you let the weight do the motion, but your biceps just get one heck of a pump. The blood in there, and your forearms, they just want.
Yeah.
The meat just wants to fall off the bone.
Your forearms are on fire like a torch. Somebody
Yes.
hit him with a torch when you're doing that. Well, they use in India. They use like wooden dumbbells, which is fine, because hey, weight is weight. The muscles.
Weight is weight. The weight on the barbell never lies.
The muscles don't give a rat's ass.
Nope.
where the resistance is coming from, whether it's a stone, whether it's wood, whether it's iron, or whatever, titanium. The weight is weight resistance.
Or iron pipe or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like I said many times, I once watched a movie about ancient Greece, the Spartans, And they were doing shoulder presses and bicep curls with a boulder in their hands.
Yeah.
They don't care. And it's more challenging because it's not a balanced barbell.
And then we did something called the horse stance. Like they do in Kung Fu.
Yeah, the Chinese,
Oh my gosh.
The Shaolin monks, they did.
Try doing that for 1 minute and then see how your legs feel. And then after doing that, try doing 20 Hindu squats after doing a horse stance for a minute. Now you're talking.
I was watching a video about the varieties of planks for the core.
There's at least 60 varieties of planks.
Really?
60.
Yeah, there's one where you bring, let's say you bring your right knee. No, you bring your
right knee to your left elbow.
Left to left, and then the left knee to the right, and you're going back and forth. Then there's one where there's so many variations.
There's so many. And then you got the pointer, the dog. So you go your left hand is forward.
Yeah.
While your right leg is backwards. So you're on your right hand and left foot. Yeah. And your abs just go crazy. It's beautiful.
Well, some of those planks I don't have the balance for, but most of them I can do. Now, what about doing planks with a Bulgarian bag or a sandbag over your upper back for resistance?
Exactly.
That's another thing.
Geez, I never thought about that. Thank you. I'll have to do it next week.
Yeah, wow. add resistance to the plank.
I digress. I must have my baklava. Hold on. I got an urge.
I'm going to say good morning to the lovely Masumi. Good morning, Masumi from southeastern Japan. Good morning. It is now, I would say, 6:11 a.m. Monday in southeastern Japan. So good morning to you, Masumi, and thank you for stopping by. As always, it is always pleasant to get your greeting on my show. Yeah, so let's take triceps. Like a lot of people don't realize that if you do like a body weight exercise, even with no weight tied to your weight weight line, if you do dips, let's say, if you do dips, or you do, let's say, Hindu push-ups on the Shena board with your hands close together.
Yeah.
You're really hitting the triceps, big time. And when you're doing those exercises, you don't really risk getting a tendonitis.
No.
Like if I think the worst thing for tendonitis of the elbow would be the skull crushers, where the guys are doing tricep extensions to their forehead or to their nose.
Yeah.
Your
bone tips.
You're really putting a lot of stress on your elbow tendons.
Yeah. You're getting bone tips.
Yeah.
Doctors love that. Get that next Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah. They say that the dip is also an outstanding pectoral exercise.
As long as you keep your elbows bent, you never want to straighten out your elbows.
Okay, so you're maintaining a time under tension.
Yeah, but you don't want to lock your elbows because you don't want to get bone chips either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about time under tension, and one bodybuilder called it the sweet spot. The spot where stress is never comes off your muscle.
The sweet spot or the G spot?
Yeah, the stress.
I digress.
Stress never comes off your muscle at all times throughout the entire movement. Like
You
if
know what
I,
else? You know what else is good for your triceps? When you make love and you're on, the plank position, but you're going, you know what I mean? Your triceps just burn. Oh my god! And the thing is, you don't want to stop. So
actually, that's not a bad idea for women. Advice. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because if a woman is getting banged from behind, doggy style,
yeah,
she can assume the plank position on, let's say, not on a bed. It's too soft. Let's say a mat. Get on the floor on top of it, like yoga mat or
you
something.
mean like the rubber mat flooring at the Long Beach Kettlebell Club,
Oh, the Schlong Beach Kettlebell Club. Yeah.
where a certain someone's going to end up living
When
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 his
is that
spouse kicks him out.
is that when the Lilliputian midget stringy pastrami has
Yeah,
a fling with the
the
owner?
little leprechaun, owe me pot of gold, owe me lucky
Oh,
charms.
me lucky charms, be part of gold. Yes, and if the woman is on the mat, she can do planks while getting plowed. Plank and
Mhm.
plow and
Yeah,
plank and plow.
exactly.
Let's coin that phrase. Let's patent it. This is our plank and
Yeah,
plow system
yeah. Let's charge people $800 for a seminar.
to
God
show
damn it!
the
What a
seminar
bunch of
to,
crooks.
to show them the plank and plow technique.
Step right up. Step right up.
Hold on. I got to play the circuit. Anyway, I just want to say something sports oriented. That is not really sports oriented, but it kind of is. Did you know that see right now the state of California comptroller is trying to close a tax loophole that will allow Shohei Ohtani,
Yeah.
when he completes his career, when he completes his contract and receives his $700 million, will be able to move back to Japan without paying a dime in California state income tax.
And why is that? Why would a state official who relies on tax revenues do such a thing?
Paid off. They
Yeah.
why would
A
why
little bit of grease. It's called grease, James. You know, grease.
greasing of the palm, greasing of the palm. Now,
Does it have anything to do with going from JFK Airport to Southern New England? Oh, I digress. Sorry.
we digress. Now, people have
Shit weight.
people have to realize, besides the fact that trickle down has always been a lie, because you're lucky if anything drips down, that when the wealthy when the wealthy, the
So
rich,
again, somebody's trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
when the rich or the mega rich don't pay any taxes, guess where
Mhm.
the burden falls? On
On
the
the working stiff.
on the middle class. And guess who is the backbone of the American economy? It's the middle class. It's the small businesses, Main Street. It's the proprietary, family-owned businesses, small growth companies. It could be a professional who has a shingle out, says certified public accountant or chiropractor or what have you, or dentist. These are all middle class people,
I know.
and they get the burden. They get the burden. I rather that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg pay super high
They
taxes.
won't. They won't. And this is how it works. wealthy people take very, very low salaries, so they don't pay personal income tax, but all their personal living expenses are paid through the company. So that yacht that you always see, pictured in the news,
Right.
that Jeff Bezos has, that's a company corporate paid yacht. The fuel is corporate paid. Everything. That's how you do it. He doesn't make a salary of like $6 million a year. He makes a salary of probably $100,000. So he pays income tax on that, which is nothing. It's about, what?
So his net worth is
$35,000 or something. Anyways, right?
Yeah.
So, and then everything else he pushes through the company. That's how the rich get richer. And then,
So
you take out loans to get cash, and then the interest on the loans is tax deductible. Do you understand how the taxes work?
Yeah. And everything imaginable that can be tax deductible is tax deductible.
Right.
Every little
everything. Like his medical care, because they don't get the medical care that the working stiffs get. All his prescriptions are paid because through his corporate insurance policy, because he has the best medical insurance. Everything is paid. He doesn't pay personal living. His food expenses, it's all on the company. Oh, it's meals and entertainment. Do you understand? He doesn't pay for a cheeseburger. Cheeseburgers? Sorry, you mean champagne and caviar for breakfast? It's company paid, James. Mm-hmm. The omelets that he has in the morning, it's a business expense. Oy vey!
Oy vey! Oh, oy vey! Oy vey! I have to send you a video. I know it's off topic for the show, but I played a video on last night's show of something that happened recently where
everybody's trying to give us the razzle dazzle.
Okay, I want to say hello, good afternoon, or good evening to Jordy in Scotland. Jordy's Den.
Hey, Jordy.
Jordy.
Why isn't Jordy on the show right now with his video?
Hold on, James. I sent you a picture.
Three panels.
I sent you a picture. Oh, he's welcome. I sent you a picture of food I got from the sushi place today. It is edamame and goma wakame salad. Oh, that's excellent. Edamame with a goma wakame salad. Now Masumi knows about that food. Edamame and goma wakame. Now Jordy has seen the light. He has changed.
Blinded by the light.
He has changed his life by getting off of booze and alcohol, and he has embraced the holistic health lifestyle, and he's eating properly and exercising, and he hasn't been feeling well. He's sick.
Yeah.
I wish him well. I hope he feels better today. And so I was talking about what was I talking about? You talk about the taxes, explain the taxes. Oh, in New York City, what happened was, it was real funny when I watched it. The Hasidic Jews had these secret tunnels underneath the city where they were
residents next to the overcrested Passaic River. Excuse me, I had to clear my throat.
Hudson. No, they had big sacks of money secretly stashed in tunnels under New York, and when the city found the tunnels, the Hasidics were rioting, and they were frantically grabbing the sacks of money and running with it.
Wow!
Trying to get it out of the tunnel before the city can confiscate it.
Wow!
Yeah, and they were like frantically doing it, like their life depended on it. They were like running.
Well, exactly.
Which doesn't surprise me.
That's funny.
Well, yeah, in moderation, Jordy. That's all. Moderation is the way to go. You know, you can still drink the craft beer, but in moderation. You know, you can have a high quality single malt Scotch whiskey, but in moderation. Yeah. All right.
That means the person of influence is trying to bamboozle us with their crap.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
they're not bamboozled.
In a supposedly elected politician who says, "Oh, it's in the best interest of the people." No, it isn't. Who's in your back pocket?
Yeah. Well, like Jesse Ventura says, all you have to do is follow the money
All of the money.
follow the money trail. Um, um,
Crookery.
Now, I just want to tell the folks that if you are looking to optimize your omega-3 fatty acid consumption, don't bother to spend a lot of money on omega-3 soft gels. Simply, instead of using tuna to make your tuna salad, use canned mackerel to make your
Ooh, that's good.
canned
Wow.
mackerel and I'll tell you why. In replacement of salmon or tuna, when you make your salad, and you know why? Because mackerel far surpasses all these other fish, even sardines, in omega-3s.
Wow.
Mackerel far surpasses all these other fish in omega-3 content. Okay, that's number one. Number two, did you know that they have proved that the high nutrients found in grass-fed red meat, is much more bioavailable and of superior quality than the nutrients found in plants. So much for vegetarians and vegans.
I know.
Vegans, I would say vegans, because vegans they don't consume dairy or eggs. Speaking of eggs, the egg yolk is a superfood. It really is.
It's enriched with all the B complex.
Yeah, enriched with essential fatty acids, B vitamins, iron. It's really,
Magnesium, zinc.
yeah, it's really a superfood, and the body's uh, level of bad cholesterol (LDL) doesn't come from dietary cholesterol. It comes from sugar, refined carbohydrate, and sugar consumption, white flour, white sugar. That's where it comes from. The body needs dietary cholesterol to make sex hormones. And also, our brains have a very high percentage of cholesterol, which comes from the dietary source. Okay. And last but not least, the best way to get your B complex vitamins is through old fashioned brewer's yeast powder. Brewer's yeast is another superfood, but it's very inexpensive.
What about swamp ass yeast from southern New England? Oh, excuse me. I digress. Sorry.
That's a live yeast. The brewer's yeast, which comes from the beer brewing industry, is dead. It's deceased. But if you're
James and I are blocked.
trying to get your yeast from that source, you're dealing with live yeast. You know, I had my aunt Vidina when she was alive. She found out I was taking brewer's yeast. She goes, "What's wrong with you, James? You cannot eat yeast." She couldn't say yeast. She said east. You cannot eat yeast.
Jeez, that's funny.
Yeah, you cannot eat yeast.
Jeez.
Hold on, let me keep up with you. Jordy should come on the show. That's good to know.
I like Jordy.
I've not had.
I've always liked Jordy.
Yeah, and we
He's one of my favorites.
And we're concerned about his health, and I hope things work out.
I encourage Jordy to stay on. I celebrate Jordy's sobriety. I really do, brother. Keep going strong.
First comes the sobriety, then comes your diet and exercise. Now, Jordy's interested in getting a juice extractor, which I think is a good idea. He loves seafood. Uh, I enjoy Marmite, a yeast extract. So that's good. Yeah, you showed me Marmite, but I wasn't quite sure what what it was. Is it like a jam or a preserve? Is it a condiment that you would spread on toast or something?
Marmalade.
No, Marmite. It's a product in the United Kingdom.
Oh,
Like United Kingdom has rose hips jam that you spread it. And I'm just wondering, you both are awesome. Oh, thank you, Jordy. We try our best. Not marmalade, Marmite.
I've heard of Marmite. Let me look. You keep going with the show. I'm gonna look it up on Google. I'm right here.
It's like a
Marmite. Hold on, my friend.
beefy paste.
Marmite.
Marmite, as the
I got it. I
as
got
the
it.
Boston
Yeah,
people say,
Marmite yeast.
Marmite,
Yeah,
Marmite.
Marmite yeast extract. It's on Amazon.ca for Canada. It's $18.99. Well, the Marmite is a British savory food spread based on yeast extract invented by the German scientist, blah, blah, blah. It's made from byproducts of beer brewing and is produced by the British company Unilever. Marmite is a vegan source of B vitamins, including supplemental B12. Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. Oh, including supplemental B12. A traditional method of use is to spread it very thinly on buttered toast. Marmite is a sticky, dark brown paste with a distinctive, salty, powerful flavor and heady aroma. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
Marmite.
It has a very
It's British.
it says savory, hearty, like the flavor of mushrooms or beef.
Oh, Jordy says a lot of people don't like it. My taste in food is massive, just like my music taste. That's right, brother.
Well, a
And
lot.
Jordy's right. He just said it's like a salty, beefy paste.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste. Certain people, there are people who dislike certain foods, and then there are others who appreciate it. And um, like for instance, in Japan, they have a fermented soy product called natto, which is a very like mucusy because it's very sticky and gooey, and it has a salty flavor that you would expect from fermented soy, but it's very high in nutritional value. Now, this Marmite is very high in value because
I'd like to get some. You know what? I might order some Marmite from Amazon.ca in Canada.
I've been using so the brewer's yeast powder
Wow.
that I use, I put 2 level tablespoons in a shaker with some
A shaker or a shake weight?
no, not a shake weight. Quickie, 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 quickie.
Yeah.
A shaker, a glass jar, and I put the filtered water, all right, and I have this powdered grass-fed goat's milk that I order from Amazon, powdered goat's milk from New Zealand, and it's very pristine over there in New Zealand. And I always love goat's milk. Goat's milk is actually very good for you. So I mix that with the water and the brewer's yeast. And this Marmite is obviously made from the same yeast from the brewing industry. Jordy says, yeah, it's healthy stuff. You can also make hot Marmite, spoonful of Marmite in a cup of boiling water. Oh, like a tea, like a hot beverage. Really interesting. Or maybe, that's interesting, Jordy. I bet you could put like I wonder if you can put like some fresh lemons squeezed in there and
But I wonder,
ginger. I wonder
the wonder of you.
who wrote the book of love. Remember that song? I wonder,
Yeah.
wonder, who wrote the book of love. Like,
The viewers get an extra bonus when James and I start reminiscing about the classic oldies.
yes, we sometimes we burst out in song.
So we're value added people.
We're very well rounded, as opposed to people that have, which annoys me, tunnel vision. You know, like the Clydesdale horses with the blinders
Yeah.
like this. They don't see. They can't see left or right. It's only they're brainwashed.
Or certain people with pointy elbows that only see dollar signs and white envelopes.
You know, um, the a person's perception means nothing if you cannot prove anything. If you don't have any facts to back it up. Perception could be it could be a deluded person that lives in a fantasy world. That their perception could
Hmm.
be based on what they want to hear.
You mean like a psychopath
Well,
or
so,
a narcissist?
well, a narcissist is bad enough, but if you have a narcissistic sociopath,
Yeah.
they don't feel remorse
No.
for anything they do. It's like remember Bernard Madoff, who made off with everybody's money?
Yep.
Well, Bernard Madoff, if he didn't get caught, he would probably continue doing what he was doing.
One for you and one for the you know who.
Yeah, one for you and two.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Keep it good.
But if he felt no remorse for cleaning out people's life savings, then he would be a sociopath.
Oh, he was a psychopath. That's even worse.
Yeah, he was cleaning out people's life savings.
He felt nothing. He wasn't capable of feeling anything for other people. Just pure evil.
Now Jordy says he could become a vegan because he's lucky that he loves vegetables.
Oh.
Yeah, but don't boil your veggies until the color is all washed out. Try steaming them or stir frying. You have a stir fry pan, Jordy, like a wok.
I need some steam.
You could stir fry like it could be anything.
On the Mongolian grill. I want the vapors of life, the steam from the Mongolian grill in Saddlebrook, New Jersey.
Oh yeah, and I used to give him the
He was a good guy. The sous chef there.
Yeah, I used to give him the lo mein noodles to stir fry, and he would combine it with all the veggies, and he would stir fry it on the grill, on the Mongolian griddle.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, he was very good young man.
Now, let me ask you something. Does the Turkish restaurant have wood charcoal rotisserie?
They have shawarma, but I don't know because that's in the kitchen.
Well, shawarma, do they have it like a gyro, like a vertical rotisserie where they cut down?
It goes this way. It doesn't go this way.
It's a horizontal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a whirlpool.
Okay. Oh, I got you now. Now,
a whirlpool versus a snowball going down the hill.
Yeah, like a vortex motion.
Yeah.
I like the word vortex. I told my sister, she says, I know what I'm doing. You don't have to tell me anything. She couldn't the hot water from this was during a holiday. Because of the tomato sauce residue, it was clogging the drain. So I says, well, take your finger and go and make a vortex motion, make a whirlpool with your finger, and all the liquid will go down the drain, and all the solid material will be in the trap.
Do you know what you just reminded me of? The way
What?
that the patrons of, we'll just say RHB, we don't want to get in trouble legally, wash their hands. They just stir the finger under the low flow, and then they wipe the finger in the paper towel, and they touch the dirty doorknob. Then they put their hands on the ladles and the spoons. The serving
You know what
spoons.
else is unsanitary?
Yeah.
For
They
cross-contamination.
just clean the tip of the finger with the low flow faucet.
When bartenders wash the glasses, they'll dip it in like 2 or 3 sinks. Now the problem is, once you dip the glass in soapy water, then dip it in sink number 2, sink number 3. Eventually, sink number 2 and sink number 3 is going to get dirty
Like
and
a
soapy.
cesspool.
Right, because there's no fresh water rinsing the glasses.
Exactly.
Now, maybe when you first set it
It's
up,
like toilet water, just sitting there.
it's any water that's stagnant is a bad
All
thing.
the sediments.
Jordy says, I usually put lemon juice in my bottled waters.
Well,
That
that's
stuff
good.
is good for detoxifying the system. Oh yeah, lemon.
It cleans out your
and-
kidneys too, Jordy. It prevents you from getting what's the calcium in your kidneys there? Kidney stones.
Kidney stones. Now you know what's good too. If you make tea, if you're not feeling well, Jordy, you make tea. You put a slice of fresh gingers.
Ooh.
And you squeeze the juice of 1 whole lemon.
Yes.
And you don't throw away the rind. You boil the rind.
The cayenne pepper.
You boil the rind because the oil, the lemon oil in the rind is much more medicinal than the juice. So you boil part of the rind, even if it's a half a rind. You know, I mean, half a lemon.
I'm a rhinestone cowboy.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.
The rind.
Anyway,
See, we try to have fun for everybody. You know, it's just like we're like the modern day soupy sales.
Soupy sales.
Goodness gracious.
He remember when he danced around, he did something called the mouse, so he was like buck teeth, he was showing.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, today we can't get away with that stuff. Oh,
That kind of humor. Yeah, so anyway, at the end, back to the lemon, you're boiling. What I do is I'll cut the lemon in half. Then I'll use the kazoo, like make believe the kazoo is a fork. I'll cut the lemon in half. I'll stick the fork into the lemon, squeeze, because with the fork in here, you can squeeze it easy. And then
squeeze is in a kegel.
right, a kegel. And then you just throw the half of the lemon with the rind, you boil it. And you can put green tea in there. It doesn't have to be only lemon and ginger. You could throw a
ginger.
green tea bag. You can
On
throw
Gilligan's Island, ginger.
a 3-hour
I
tour.
wonder if Gilligan ever
3 hours.
ever tasted ginger as yeast.
No, because Ginger sat alone. She didn't buddy up with anybody on the show.
Even the professor.
No, nobody. She was embarrassed to do the show. She took it for the money.
Wow.
She felt that she felt that the role of Ginger on a sitcom was beneath her.
Tina Louise.
This is actually quite true.
Wow.
Now,
I never knew that. Thank you for enlightening me.
Now, what's her name? Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann, was a sweetheart, I heard. She was a great. She had the belly, the belly shirt.
Oh, I like that. With the belly button.
The
It's like
cutoff.
Barbara Eden.
She
Remember, Barbara Eden was the first one to show her belly button in the genie uniform.
didn't know that.
Yep.
You know what screwed up the sitcom? I found out when somebody decided to have Major Nelson and Jeannie get married.
Oh.
That totally put an axe into the
Ah.
no, that's when the show went down and then got canceled.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, getting back to the medicinal witch's brew. You got the lemon, you got the fresh ginger. You put tea of your choice. If you like Earl Grey, you put Earl Grey. If you like black tea,
one.
tea for two and two for tea. It'll help you pee. Bring her to her knees. Tea. Okay. The Kegel, not the Kegel,
Ah!
the what do you call it? The oh, oh,
Sounds like you're taking a big dump there.
oh,
Oh.
oh, back in my neck. The the plank and plow system.
Yeah.
That's Commodore's special plank and plow technique, where the woman works her core and gets drilled from behind at the same time. Jordy says, "See, we're adding a lot of comedy to this holistic health program here. Currently eating edamames, which is a young green soybean in a pod. I recently came to love this food. It's actually very good for you. First time I had it was a week ago. Fun to experiment with foods you never had. Well, I'm a big sushi lover. I mean, good sushi. Now Commodore hasn't. I haven't taken him to the all-you-can-eat Japanese place
Yeah,
by
but you
me.
did about 3 or 4 good shows from that place for like an hour. It was very good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Let me tell you, the quality is like excellent, and they have cooked food there too. So if somebody is really not into the sushi and sashimi, they can order grilled. They can order steak teriyaki, fried oysters, tempura, so on and so forth. Udon, beef udon, pork udon noodle soup. Well, udon is the thick noodles. That's good. That's good if you have a cold, Jordy. You could get a nice big bowl of like udon noodle
I need
soup.
some oolong tea.
No, that's oolong.
Miso oolong.
Semi-fermented tea. It's a typical Chinese restaurant tea.
Where's your
Especially
closest Chinatown? Because I really miss Chinatown in Boston. I used to go there all the time. Do you have a Chinatown near you? Or do you have to go into
nah,
Manhattan?
you gotta go into the biggest Chinatown.
Or is it
One of
in
the
Brooklyn? Or where is it?
one of the biggest Chinatowns in the country is in Flushing, Queens, New York.
Oh, okay.
Flushing. It's supposedly a lot bigger than Manhattan, Lower Manhattan's Chinatown. All right. Little Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brands dating
There you
game.
go.
All right.
That's classic Americana.
Yeah, Jordy sushi is great. Yes, it is. It's tasty too. Boy, with all this knowledge in comedy, the hour with you is going quite rapidly. I'll be playing a few holistic health oriented videos after the Commodore departs for the gymnasium.
Yep, in about 11 minutes.
And I think it's great that you're training somebody because let me tell you, your seminars compared to the seminars of people that receive several $100s per client, your seminars are of such lofty value. Like it's your seminars on Mount Olympus, and their seminar, the people that are ripping everyone off for all that money, they're in a sewer.
Well, my seminars are very similar to Ken Thiessen's because Ken Thiessen and I actually apply our CTT to our actual on the platform
Yeah.
athletic endeavors such as the vintage strength games with the mace or powerlifting. You know, so Keith, I don't know. So Ken Thiessen and I actually we use it for longevity in our athletic endeavors. I just have to go to the printer for 1 second.
You're percolating.
No, I think of stuff off the printer.
Oh, the printer. Percolating printer. Ken Thiessen actually uses the old-fashioned original exercises of the Akara with his clients.
Yeah, even the hoe.
The hoe, yeah,
he without using the legs. The rope without using the legs.
Rope, I was gonna say, ties the rope to the tree branch. He takes him to the park. He finds a good tree branch.
He's got a concrete gutter.
He's got some homemade gutter, and then he
with the concrete.
Right, and he's got some homemade concrete juries.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
He learned how to make them. They came out pretty good. Yeah, what he did is I think he got like poster.
So in other words, he's not full of bullshit like all these other carnival snake oil hucksters.
No. You know what the thin mustachioed slick Rick told me?
What?
He told me he can't use any original ancient Akara tools with his clients because it'll make him look bad. The image
full of shit.
The image it'll tarnish his image unless he has real pretty.
So he's not worried about looking bad, but he's more concerned with look like an asshole when he's swinging sledgehammers in a crowded hotel parking lot next to expensive cars from the hotel guests.
Right. Or after the man spends money on him, flies him all the way to Italy, goes to one of his competitive gyms trying to book an event with the enemy. Or with
he's a real nice guy. He's a real piece of work.
Yeah, his competitor.
You know, my grandmother used to go, you're Italian. You know what this means? Yeah. Espirita! Two-face. This side of your face.
How do you say do a quacha facha do
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Do how do you say in Italian to faccia's face?
Yeah.
Two-face. Well, and then what about the fact that he was annoyed that the gym owner from Northern Ireland.
It's Dua Faccia. DUEFACCE. Do it
from Belfast that bought one of the evil monkey, funky monkey, whatever the hell.
Shit.
and it became a dangerous projectile.
Yeah, a
And
flying
somebody
projectile.
somebody swung it in his gym, and it flew off and
Oh, he's got an Irish brogue.
almost hit one of his it almost hit one of his members in the head
Yeah,
as a dangerous
that's not
projectile. And
funny
he's
either.
mad.
He
No, and
thought it was
he's
funny.
mad. Well, that could have been a big lawsuit against the owner.
Yeah.
And he's mad that the Irish gym owner complained and left him a message.
Yeah, yeah, but then there's also the bridge, the unrepairable bridge. But then there's an olive branch in Los Angeles, California, over lunch. The bridge
Yeah,
that was never to be repaired, the irreparable bridge.
That guy is so full of shit.
He is.
But,
He's another
England.
sellout. He also blocked me on Facebook. What the fuck are all these people blocking me on Facebook?
He ended up having. He's probably a friend.
How could you block me on
Paul,
Facebook?
He's probably a friend of Paul Terras.
Yeah.
So he.
No, but at least Paul didn't block me. I see Paul on Facebook all the time.
Oh.
Like on the Mace page, Paul's not my friend on Facebook, but I do see Paul's postings on the Mace page. So at least Paul,
no, I'm not a member there. No,
Paul didn't block us. It's the other asshole in Ireland. No. Where's that other asshole located? Someplace in the UK.
In England.
Mm.
So he ends up having a dinner in Los Angeles with Slick Rick Brown after he says that the bridge never be mended.
Yeah, that was another 10-minute rant on Facebook.
Yeah, another drama queen.
Yeah.
Dancing
queen, I'm a drama queen in the CTT world. Young and sweet, 17 on the tambourine, oh yeah. You can dance, having the time of my life.
ABBA. Two very attractive Swedish girls singing.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Agnesta, right? It's like Agnes, but it's in Swedish. So Agnesta, she's the blonde one. Mamma mia, mamma mia. And what was the other one? Hilda, something like that?
Hildegard?
No.
There's one was blonde and one
that was Agnesta.
One was brunette.
Yeah.
They're very beautiful and unbelievable singers. I mean, incredible.
Exactly.
What's that other song?
Agnetha. That's her name, Agnetha. And then I forget the other one's name. The other.
Take a chance with me. Remember
that? I love that. Take a chance on me. Yeah, her name's Annie Frid. So it's Agnetha and Annie Frid.
Annie Frid.
Chance on me. Money, money, money.
Yeah, money.
Always money in the CT world. Send me your money, all you sycophants and hero worshippers. Ask your unnamed husband for $3,000.
There was a real funny Planet Fitness commercial.
But I'm not from New Jersey. People of California are my people. In the rich man's world.
There was this commercial. I think it's still on YouTube. It was an advertisement for Planet Fitness gym franchises. And these two muscleheads walk into the gym, go up to the manager.
Lunkheads. They call them lunkheads.
He says, lunkheads. He says, hey, you need any trainers? First he says, hey, you taking that protein, bro? You taking that protein, bro? Yeah, and he said, need any trainers? He says, train and drain those suckers' bank accounts. He goes, And the guy, the manager, threw him out. He showed him the door. He says, "You like doors?" He showed him
That's
the
funny.
door.
Look at me, love me, worship me.
Drain those suckers' bank accounts. Oh man, yeah.
Remember that, James? Love me, need me, worship me, want
Oh
me.
yeah, that was the
Silvio the super.
Silvio, the superintendent. I got my eye on that Newman.
I like Silvio.
Yeah, that's when Kramer reversed the peephole on his door.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, remember when he turned the hallway into a patio? Yeah,
You can dance. Yeah, for the 4th of July, and he had the things, and then the kids put all the streamers or the stuff in the can.
He put a screen door out there and a wind chime.
He said, "Come on down, come on back now."
I like the one with little Jerry Seinfeld, the fighting rooster.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yep.
Oh man.
And Jerry, in the same episode, Jerry had all the checks that bounced. He was on the list.
Marcello, I think the guy's name was Marcello. Yeah, he had like a clown. He had a clown check that bounced.
Oh, speaking of which, Crazy Joe Davola died this week at age 71.
Oh shit, he did?
Yeah. Yep. Crazy Joe. He died on Friday.
71.
71. That's all he was.
That's not that old.
And they said in real life he was a very, very, very nice man.
Yeah, that's not that
Crazy Joe Davola.
That's not that old, really. I know.
Remember?
I know the super.
Was it Pagliacci?
Pagliacci.
No. What is
Pagliacci.
it? Pagliacci.
The clown, the sad clown.
Pagliacci. You got your tickets? Pagliacci tickets. Pagliacci tickets.
Yeah, he said
when they're scalping him on the sidewalk.
Elaine says, "You know, you left your door open." He says, "Well, I encourage intruders."
Exactly, but they can't leave. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, 6:01. Okay. I must.
Okay, let me pipe you.
I must bid adieu. Bid adieu.
Thank you, Commodore Jeff Sambill.
That was a fun show. That was. I had a lot of entertainment. A lot of fun.
I like the variety, the ad lib variety.
And boy, I wish maybe next week we can put, pay homage to the king of one-liners, Henny Youngman. So we should both do a little bit of research and just bring him, just pay homage.
It's good to pay homage to certain people.
Unlike certain CTT snake oil salesmen who never pay homage to
the great Gama. He retired.
The ancient masters.
He retired undefeated. The great Gama.
Anyways, I got a bit to do.
Thank you. Have a good Sunday. Have a great week.
And Jordy, see you later. Stay strong, Jordy.
Yes. That was wonderful, people. That was wonderful. All right, let me get. Let's see. This one is about the most important vitamins for the eye. Most.
So I wanted to touch on the eye and very important vitamins for the eye, and not just vitamins, but a mineral and a phytonutrient. The first thing you need to understand is that a lot of these problems with the eye, whether it's macular degeneration or retinopathies or cataracts or glaucoma, they usually stem or get triggered from oxidation, high levels of oxidation. usually from too much blood sugar. Okay, that's why in diabetics you see so many problems with the eye, or high levels of insulin. Other things in the diet can affect the eye, but the big thing is the sugar. Okay, so I've done other videos on that. And then the high sugar also will deplete you of certain nutrients as well. But these nutrients I want to mention act as antioxidants. So if you have enough of these nutrients in your body, it will reduce the complications from diabetes or high sugar or whatever you have. They basically have protective properties, okay? So the most important is vitamin A. Without vitamin A, you're gonna have a lot of eye problems. Vitamin A helps you see in the dark, and it can reduce night blindness and prevent it, basically, in people that can't see when they're driving at night. Without vitamin A, your tear ducts and your mucous membranes around the eye dry right up, so you get dry eye. There's so many people like carrying around this little solution to help lubricate the eye when they need vitamin A. And also make note that you might need more bile salts if there's a gallbladder problem or a liver problem, because you need that to help you absorb vitamin A. Without vitamin A, you tend to get cataracts and macular degeneration. The macula is the back part of the eye. All right, then we get vitamin B1, which gets depleted when you're diabetic, when you eat high carbohydrate diets, when you eat refined foods, and also if you're taking metformin, by the way, that will deplete B1. Without B1, your risk of getting cataracts go way up, and also your risk for getting retinopathy, problems with the retina, because B1 is involved in keeping the outer coating of your nerves intact, that myelin sheath. So if you have any type of peripheral neuropathy problems because you're a diabetic, you want to take B1, but you want to take it in a fat-soluble form, as in benfotiamine, okay? Benfotiamine is also good to penetrate the fat layers of the eye and even the brain. So it's really good for something like this if you catch it in time. All right, B3 is good for glaucoma. And all the B vitamins that I'm going to talk about, you can take nutritional yeast to get your B vitamins. It's a good source. But glaucoma is high pressure in the eye. Okay, then we have zinc. Zinc is a very powerful antioxidant. It's a trace mineral. Over 2 billion people on this planet are deficient in zinc. It's a very common deficiency also in agriculture as well. So it's one of the most common. But zinc allows vitamin A to work, okay, to do its job. Without zinc, vitamin A has a hard time creating its functions. All right, another point is that your eye is loaded with zinc, okay, because zinc acts as a cofactor or a helper in all these different enzymes, over 1,000 different enzymes dealing with proteins. Without zinc, you get an increased risk of getting a cataract and macular degeneration. Other than that, you're perfectly fine. Okay, then we get carotenoids, which is not a vitamin, it's a phytonutrient. It's an additional thing in plants and other foods that give you health benefits, like lutein, zeaxanthin. You may have heard about eating tomatoes, for example, it's high in lutein, or kale, or any type of leafy greens, because these carotenoids actually help prevent macular degeneration, and a lot of other things. Okay, vitamin D actually can help reduce the risk for cataracts. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. This is a fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamin E is also involved, but I didn't want to mention that because there's not a tremendous amount of research on the eye with vitamin E. Maybe a little bit here and there, but vitamin E is a very powerful antioxidant. Also, so is vitamin C from food. Very important. But again, I didn't want to put that because I didn't find a lot of research on that. All right, vitamin B2 deficiencies can increase your risk of cataracts and macular degeneration as well. And vitamin B2 is a antioxidant for the nervous system too. So I did another video on this related to Parkinson's. Very interesting. All right, guys, there's a summary. Make sure you're getting these nutrients from the food that you're eating. Hey guys, real
Okay. Let's see. Okay, we're going to move on to the next health related video, holistic health video. Let's see what we got here. Right. Bear with me. Okay. All right. We'll go to this one. This is video is called Can Supplements Actually Shrink Your Prostate Gland? Referring to men with enlarged prostates, benign prostatic hyperplasia.
Do with stress?
Supplements, they're everywhere. In fact, as you age, particularly over the age of 60, people are likely to report taking 4 or more dietary supplements. So, can supplements help your prostate? I'm Dr. Rena Malik, urologist and pelvic surgeon, and today we're going to cover what supplements there are that might help with prostate enlargement or symptoms related to prostate enlargement, and what is the data behind them. Benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, or prostate enlargement is a very common condition. In fact, 80% of men at the age of 80 will have prostate enlargement. So people often have symptoms related to prostate enlargement, and these can be things like having a weak urinary stream, having difficulty emptying your bladder, having to wait for your stream to start, or your stream having to stop and start during urine flow. In some cases, it can also cause going to the bathroom very often during the day or even at night. And it can cause the urge to go, gotta go, and sometimes not even make it. So wouldn't it be great if we had supplements to help with these symptoms? Now, before I get into the data on the variety of supplements that are available, I want to let you know what supplements are. They're what we call phytotherapeutic products, meaning that they come from plants. And so plants themselves will have variability. And so oftentimes, even if you get the same supplement from the same manufacturer, sometimes they may work better than others. Also, companies use different processes when they extract the ingredient from the plants. And so that can also vary the efficacy. And the amount of the product within the supplement can vary. In one study looking at 27 saw palmetto products, they saw huge variability in the active ingredient, which is the free fatty acid within the saw palmetto. And that ranged from anywhere from none in the supplement to 95% the amount that was needed. And only 17 met the criteria for a saw palmetto supplement, which was to have 85% of that free fatty acid component or more in the supplement. So the way these supplements typically work is they have anti-inflammatory effects. And if you watched my last video last week, you'll know that inflammation is one of the causes of prostate enlargement. So they have an anti-inflammatory effect. Sometimes they also interact with some of those growth factors I told you that are involved in cell proliferation, like ILGF or insulin-like growth factor, and other growth factors that cause cell growth. And lastly, sometimes they interact with the hormones DHT or the enzymes that convert them 5-alpha reductase. Now, one of the pharmaceutical drugs that we use for BPH does also affect that same enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, and it inhibits the conversion of testosterone to DHT. And this is actually quite effective in reducing prostate size and growth. So some of these medications are similar in that way. And if you want to learn more about that medication, check out my video where I talk about medications for enlarged prostate in quite detail, including the side effects that you may experience if you're taking them. So let's start off with the most rigorously studied supplement in probably all of urology, and that's called Serenoa repens or saw palmetto. This is a berry from a dwarf plant tree. And while the mechanism of action is not 100% clear, it's thought to reduce inflammation, It's also thought to reduce the conversion of testosterone to DHT by acting on the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. It's thought to inhibit the binding of dihydrotestosterone, which is the most concentrated androgen in the prostate. How this supplement works is 1, it reduces prostate inflammation. 2, it's thought to inhibit the conversion of testosterone to DHT by its effect on 5-alpha reductase. And lastly, it also may affect the binding of dihydrotestosterone to receptors in the prostate. Now I'm going to go over the abundance of data on saw palmetto. So I want to start by saying this was used very often in the 90s in Europe and the United States because the early studies were very, very promising. And of course, people like taking supplements over taking pharmaceuticals. And so the first study was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Now, I have not seen many studies on supplements with the exception of like vitamin D and magnesium in the large journals like the New England Journal and JAMA. These are sort of the top tier medical journals that clinical doctors and clinical physicians use to assess the medical literature. And these are the type of articles that cause changes in our practice, in our clinical practice of how we take care of patients. So all the studies I'm going to talk about are randomized controlled trials. Now, this study was also a double-blinded randomized controlled trial of 225 men. And this is important because not only did they not know what they were getting, but the people who were giving the medication didn't know what they were giving. And these men had to have moderate to severe symptoms, and they had to take saw palmetto for 1 year during the duration of the study at a 160 milligram dose twice daily. And all these studies look at different factors. Obviously, they look at symptom scores. So they use validated questionnaires that correlate with the severity of symptoms. And they use these to sort of standardize the outcome, and they use those. They look at your flow rate, which is how fast your urine flows out, how quickly it hits the toilet in milliliters per second. They sometimes look at prostate size, and oftentimes they also look at how well your bladder is emptying, so how much urine is left over after urinating. And in this trial, they also looked at quality of life. And so in all of these measures, they found no statistically significant difference between those who took the Palmetto and those who took a placebo pill. Now, the reason I've said this many times, the reason these studies are so important is because every time you take a pill, there is a placebo effect, meaning you think it's going to work and your brain is quite powerful and it will tell your body that your symptoms are better, or it may help even with some symptoms, but it's all based on just a placebo. There's no active ingredient in that pill. And so it's important to differentiate what is a placebo effect and what is a true effect of the actual treatment that you're giving. So in the next study, which was published in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, in 2011. Now, this was also a double-blind randomized controlled trial. It was over 11 different centers in North America, and it recruited over 300 men. And in this study, they were dose escalated, meaning that they started with getting 320 milligrams a day of saw palmetto, which is the same that they were getting in that last study. They then increased the dose to double that and then triple that to see if there was any difference. And they followed the study over 72 weeks. So it was not a short study. And what they found over those 3 years was that there was really, again, no statistically significant difference in all the parameters that they investigated. Now, our last study in the New England Journal was moderate to severe LUTs. This study was actually a group of people who probably had more mild symptoms. They were younger overall, they were less symptomatic, they had better flow rates and lower PSAs. Now, PSA is a blood test that is often used for screening of prostate cancer, but it also can be used as a surrogate for prostate size because the larger your prostate is, the more PSA it makes. This has also been studied so much that they created what's called a Cochrane Review. Cochrane Reviews are sort of a well-respected organization, the Cochrane Review organization, that creates systematic reviews of all the data and literature. And in fact, saw palmetto went through, I think, 3 Cochrane Reviews, the last one being in 2012, because once they saw this new JAMA article, they had to incorporate it into the systematic review and analyze all the data from all the studies together to come up with a definitive plan. Is saw palmetto actually helpful? In this review, they include 17 randomized controlled trials with over 2,000 patients. These patients were about 64 years of age. Most of them were white, and they had moderate to severe symptoms based on their symptom scores. When they focused on the high-quality, long-duration studies and analyzed those specifically, they again saw no significant difference in symptom score or flow rate with saw palmetto compared to placebo. So I will say this is actually a really good example of what happens in the field of science, right? We start off with smaller studies. Usually they're less, they receive less funding, they're less of interest. And so they're smaller duration studies, and we may see promising results. But when we follow this data for years with larger numbers of patients, that difference may become diluted and actually not be significant. It means that it may not make a difference that's clinically meaningful to patients. What do I do with saw palmetto? I still offer it to patients if they are wanting to try a supplement option, because I do find that some patients still do see a benefit. However, I always tell them the data did not show a benefit. So this is essentially maybe a drain on your wallet and may not be helpful. But for some people, they would much rather take either that or take that with other medications to avoid a surgical procedure for an enlarged prostate. And again, this is about what you want and what you need. Now, saw palmetto is generally very, very safe, has very little side effects. It can affect blood clotting, so if you're going to have a major procedure, generally it's a good idea to stop it 2 weeks before. But otherwise, it's pretty safe. Most people tolerate it pretty well. And I will say that generally speaking, any supplement or anything you take can have GI side effects, so nausea, vomiting, changes in bowel habits. So if that occurs with anything, obviously you can stop it and make sure that those symptoms improve. And if they persist, that's important to see your primary care doctor to make sure it's nothing more serious. The next supplement is called Pygium africanum. Now, this is from the bark of an African cherry tree, and the fruit that it produces are African cherries or African plums, however you want to call it, but that's where the word pygium comes from. And this works by a multitude of actions. First off, it reduces 5-alpha reductase activity, so it prevents the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. It also inhibits the androgen receptor from binding so that it reduces signaling. And by that way, it's supposed to reduce prostate cell growth. There was also so many studies on this that they also had a Cochrane review that was published in 2002. This also included 18 randomized controlled trials with over 1,500 men. And however, it's important to note that these studies were really short in duration. It was about 64 days. And in this Cochrane review, they actually did see a benefit. People who took the Pygium, at least in this short duration, were twice as likely to show an improvement in overall symptoms. They reduced the need to urinate at night by about 19%, the amount of volume of urine left over after urinating in the bladder by about 24%, and they increased the peak urinary flow by another 23%. So it did see an improvement. And the dose they took ranged from 100 to 200 milligrams. Now, there were some side effects. Again, most common were GI side effects and nausea, abdominal discomfort, things like that. But despite this positive review, so while they saw a positive improvement, I don't believe there's been any subsequent longer-term studies that have shown benefit with this particular supplement. Now, I see it a lot in combination with saw palmetto in terms of those supplements that have multiple ingredients in them. And so perhaps maybe together they do see a better benefit. But generally speaking, like I said, these studies are really small. The outcomes were not standardized. It was a really short duration, so hard to tell if it's really going to help in the long term. And generally speaking, when you take supplements, that's usually not a quick onset. Like when you take a pharmaceutical medication, those are really sort of concentrated to have just the active ingredient in them. And so they work a lot quicker. Whereas supplements, you generally have to take a couple months or at least a month to see a true benefit. So I'm not really sure if this would be replicated in longer term studies. The next supplement is called Cucurbita pepo, or pumpkin seed. And so pumpkin seed usually comes in an extract, either an oil or a supplement pill form.
Shrink swollen prostate using this simple 10-second method in just a few moments. Even if you've been living with an enlarged prostate for months, years, or even decades, or if you've been experiencing symptoms such as nighttime urination, incomplete bladder emptying, or weak urine.
And it works by, again, affecting the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. It also has an anti-inflammatory component. And in fact, in rat studies, it has been shown to increase nitric oxide, which can then allow for smooth muscle relaxation. So that can also help relax the prostate and allow for improvement in symptoms. Additionally, pumpkin seeds have really high levels of zinc, and the prostate is one of the organs in the body that has high concentration of zinc. So the zinc itself is thought to ameliorate some of the BPH symptoms. Now, it's important to note in your extract that you decide to take, if you decide to take it after watching this, that there are high levels of phosphate, zinc, as I mentioned, magnesium and manganese in a lot of pumpkin seed extracts. So if you, for example, are taking another magnesium supplement, you don't want to take both. Or if you have kidney issues, you don't want high levels of phosphate. So you want to avoid something like this. So always, no matter what supplement you take, check the ingredients on the back, because you don't want to excessively take any one ingredient. Again, we're focusing on studies that are randomized controlled trials. So here they had a randomized controlled trial looking at men getting 500 milligrams of pumpkin seed extract versus the control over 12 months. And they recruited about 476 men. They did see a significant improvement in symptoms based on validated questionnaires. A 65% improvement in the pumpkin seed group versus a 54% improvement in the control group. Now look, that's a huge placebo effect, 54%. That's pretty high. They didn't see an improvement in other factors like flow rate, residual urine leftover, PSA levels, and the size of the prostate. There was, again, another study very similar to this, 1,400 patients that were randomized to receive either the pumpkin seed extract of 500 milligrams or the pumpkin seed itself at 5 grams twice a day compared to placebo. And again, they did see an improvement in symptom scores, but they weren't sure if it was really clinically significant. So generally speaking, I think in terms of pumpkin seed, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media about pumpkin seed extract, pumpkin seed oil, and I think there may be a benefit, but if we're not seeing changes in the other parameters, like how quick your urine is flowing, which is usually the big one that I like to see, is that your flow is better, then it may not be useful. But I think that also it does have some beneficial effects on the bladder itself. So it may improve some of the overactive bladder symptoms like going often or gotta go, or having to wake up at night, which isn't really assessed by these other parameters like prostate volume and residual urine, but it may overall help with those symptoms. The next one is beta-cytosterol. So this is a very common molecule that's found in a lot of cell membranes that's similar to cholesterol. And it's found in plants, cereals. It's very highly abundant. But it works in one way as an anti-inflammatory, and it also has what we call pro-apoptotic mechanism. So it actually helps sort of kill off some of the cells that are growing in the prostate. And that's the theory anyways. Again, this is also seen most commonly in sort of combination supplements, but this was studied again in a Cochrane review. This was published in 1999. And it has 5 randomized controlled trials included in it with over 500 men. And so in these two, in the both control and the supplement group, they saw an improvement in symptoms, but they also saw an improvement in flow rate. It's important, but they did not see an improvement in overall prostate size. So it doesn't cause prostate shrinkage. It may improve urinary flow rate. Side effects, again, are GI related, so gas, constipation, diarrhea, but otherwise generally pretty well tolerated. And that moves us on to the last one for today, which is stinging nettle or Urtica dioica. I might be saying that wrong. So this is a perennial plant that's usually found in damp soils and abandoned fields. And typically people will use the root extract for the benefit of BPH symptoms. So similar to beta-cytosterol, it has anti-inflammatory and anti-growth, essentially, factors. It will inhibit some of the growth factors that are responsible for BPH growth. It may even inhibit the connection of sex hormone binding globulin 2 receptors in the prostate itself. There was no good high-quality study with stinging nettle by itself, but there was one where it was combined with saw palmetto, or in the study called sawball fruit. In the study, they were randomized to receive 160 milligrams of saw palmetto with 120 milligrams of the root extract of stinging nettle twice a day compared to the placebo. And they followed these people for up to 48 weeks. And after 48 weeks, they were then all given the active supplement to up to 96 weeks. And so based on this, they again saw an improvement in symptoms and urinary flow rates with both together over 96 weeks. And so that does, again, show that's a pretty good, rigorous, long-term study that's shown a benefit. Stinging nettle has a little bit more sort of reactions that you need to be aware of. One is that it can interact with iron. So if you're taking iron, it can reduce the efficacy of the iron you're taking. It, of course, can cause the same GI effects. Some people do get swelling or hives or other sort of dermatologic issues, although that's quite rare. And if you're taking lithium or blood thinners, you want to avoid taking stinging nettle. Also, if you're diabetic, stinging nettle can have sort of a hypoglycemic effect. So you want to watch that with your diabetes medications. It may not be a good idea to take those together. If you're taking diuretics, stinging nettle can also decrease your body's potassium, which can be dangerous if combined with the wrong diuretic. So if you're any of those categories, I would just avoid taking stinging nettle altogether. Now, in my last video, I talked about lycopene. So lycopene is a powerful carotenoid that has an anti-inflammatory effect. It also is a strong antioxidant, and it can slow prostate growth by the way it interacts with certain growth factors like IGF-1 to help reduce the growth of the prostate. So in terms of studies with lycopene, there's no randomized controlled trials on lycopene by itself. But there have been reviews looking at sort of all the published literature, and I will say it's extremely variable. They've seen doses from anywhere to 10 milligrams twice a day up to 500 milligrams twice a day. They followed people for up to 6 months, and they've done it on a large number, about 2,000 patients, if you look at all the data together, and they've shown some benefit. But again, these studies are really variable, and you cannot confirm this without a randomized controlled trial. So until there are randomized controlled trials that go head-to-head with lycopene and placebo, it's really hard to say if this truly works. And if you are going to try lycopene, I'd say start with the food grade first rather than taking supplements. So add some tomato paste into your diet, or tomatoes or watermelon or any other food that has lycopene, and see if that helps with your symptoms. Again, lycopene in terms of tomato-based products can be a bladder irritant. So if you are experiencing irritation from eating those things, then maybe taking a supplement may be better. But again, I can't say if it's truly effective. The only randomized controlled trials we have, as I mentioned, are with other things like saw palmetto and selenium, where they did see a benefit. And also just know that lycopene can affect blood clotting. So if you are taking lycopene, to stop it a couple weeks before surgery so that you don't have any adverse bleeding during surgery. So in terms of BPH, these are probably the most rigorously studied supplements, and the one that has the most data is saw palmetto. Ultimately did not show a benefit, but still I think highly used, and it does help for some individual patients. And then the other ones, there's some data, but not as robust as saw palmetto. And ultimately, I think if you are having bothersome BPH symptoms, of course, my concern is your quality of life and improving that quality of life. And so if these supplements help you get there, that's great. There's also, of course, a number of medications that you can take or procedures that you can get done if it's becoming too bothersome. Really, the biggest concern as a urologist is that over time, when you have a large prostate blocking the bladder, it can affect bladder function. It can make the bladder not squeeze as strongly as it used to because it keeps pushing urine through the prostate for years and years, which can create a problem. And so in terms of that, if your symptoms are getting worse or you're having symptoms very young, I encourage you to consider doing something to alleviate those symptoms and either start medication or consider a procedure, because you're young and you've got many, many years to live, and it could become a problem as you age. But at the end of the day, we just want you to feel better and hopefully live a happy, healthy, and fulfilled life. If you're enjoying this content, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and consider being a premium member. Every month we do Ask Me Anything episodes on the premium membership that will be from questions only from premium members. We also offer early access to all our podcast episodes that are ad-free. So check it out at rinamalik.com.
Okay, I just want to say that the lycopene content in tomatoes is greatly increased by cooking. The cooking process, for some reason, releases much more lycopene. It becomes more bioavailable. I keep my tomato sauce down to a minimum because I'm subject to acid reflux by certain foods, especially like foods high in carbs, high carbohydrate type foods, you know. So I try to consume them in moderation. But I take rose hips powder in as a part of my elixir that I mix with the organic dark roast coffee. I put moringa in there. I put the rose hips, 5 grams of rose hips powder. I put, I would say about a half a teaspoon of organic clove powder because it has the highest antioxidant ORAC score of any known food, among other things, being a natural antiseptic. And being that I was given a big bottle, a big jar from a relative, I put this organic certified raw honey just to give it some flavor because moringa has a horseradish taste. But anyway, rose hips is very high in lycopene, so it's a non-acidic form of lycopene. As far as Ronnie S goes, I'm going to have to ask him on Messenger to see how he's feeling. Thank you for reminding me. He's on Messenger, so you can communicate with him if you wish. I have one last video to play for this week's show, Holistic Health Talk, and it has to do with eggs. I'd say it's a positive video about eggs. Oh, wait. I got the wrong one. Ha ha ha. No. I'm trying to find it. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Come on. All right. Here we go. I hope you're having a good weekend, Mr. Mr. Daryl Messias. I hope things are good. The show went pretty well last night, even though I didn't have any co-hosts. It went well. I had good communication by way of texting, you know, in the commentary section. So I made the best of it, and it ended up being a good show. Here we go.
Hello, health champions. Today I want to talk about the shocking truth regarding eggs and heart disease. There is a prevailing truth, an accepted truth in mainstream medicine and in our society as a whole, that cholesterol is bad, that saturated fat is bad, that saturated fat increases cholesterol, and that's why saturated fat is bad, and also that high levels of cholesterol causes heart disease. And then basically we've been told this so many times that we don't question it anymore, that the case is closed, this is how it is. And we're going to talk about all of these different factors, and we're going to talk about it in a way that you learn to think about it, not just refer to some study or some article, but you'll understand these things, and when you think about them, you'll be able to go, hey, that makes sense, or that does not make sense. But how come this became the prevailing truth, the mainstream truth, the current dogma? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we associate things, that these fatty plaques have some cholesterol in them, and therefore we think, hey, that must come from somewhere. It must be from what we're eating. It must be the cholesterol. And a lot of that thinking had to do with something called the 7 countries study. So this was late 50s, early 60s, where a guy called Ansel Keys, who was a nutritionist, was very convincing in his arguments. So here is how that study came about. He studied number of countries, and as you soon notice, there were a lot more than 7 countries. And in fact, there were 22 countries that he started with. And then you would think this should be called the 22 countries study, but he selected a number of these countries. So these were the only countries that ended up in the study, which is 5 of them. And then the other countries were scrapped because they didn't fit what he was looking for. So he had this idea that he was trying to prove that diets high in saturated fat and cholesterol, in countries where they had those diets, they also had more heart disease. So he had to pick the countries that matched what he was trying to prove. And that was only 5 countries out of 22 that matched his criteria. And then he had to go and find 2 more countries, Greece and Yugoslavia. So now he had 7 countries where he could kind of see a pattern. And that's what he published as the 7-country study. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that cherry picking like that is not a great idea if you want to be objective. But even so, this has been hailed as a landmark study and is basically the foundation of why we think the way we do today. And since then, there's been hundreds of studies performed on these topics, and they tend to kind of fall 50-50 or in 2 opposite camps, not necessarily equally split, but there are some studies that show that high cholesterol is strongly correlated with cardiovascular disease. But for every study that says that, there is another that says there's no correlation or even an inverse correlation, that actually high cholesterol, high saturated fat diets result in less cardiovascular disease. And that's why he had to scrap most of those 22 countries, because a lot of them actually showed the opposite relationship. But why is it so difficult to figure this out? If we have gold standard research, double-blind, placebo control, why can't they figure it out? And one thing that we have to ask is, who pays for it? And these studies are not cheap. They are in the millions or tens of millions of dollars to perform a big, comprehensive, well-designed study. So if you have tens of millions of dollars sitting around, you can go and order yourself a study, and someone will be happy to perform it for you. But for the most part, the people or the companies with that kind of money tend to be pharmaceutical companies. So they have huge budgets because it's in their best interest to prove that high cholesterol causes heart disease. But here's an astounding fact that most people don't realize, but it kind of makes sense if you understand human nature. We don't want to look bad. So if someone orders a study and they get the results back and they're favorable, then there's an 85% chance that their studies will get published. If they can get it through the peer review process to show that it's well designed and relevant, then 80% of those will get published. But
why is everyone in the US going crazy over this portable heater? With inflation at an all-time high, heating your home might just become a luxury. But thanks to this new invention, you can warm up any room for almost zero cost.
If it is not favorable, if the results coming back do not support what they wanted, then there's an 85% chance that it won't get published. And these are not totally exact numbers because it's going to vary a little bit, but they're roughly in the ballpark. And what this shows us is that what we call scientific truth, that we base this on double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, and we think, hey, what's out there, what's published, that represents the truth. But what's built into this process is a 45x bias toward the person who ordered, the entity who ordered the study. So we can't just look at what's out there and assume that that's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So I don't have tens of millions of dollars sitting around either. So I have performed some of my own studies on a smaller scale. And you may have seen those videos where I do something, I get some blood work, then I eat something, and then I do blood work again, and then I report what happened. So for example, I ate 100 eggs in 7 days, and the pre and post blood work showed a few items going up or down, but overall I did not get sicker. There were no dramatic markers that I had a poor health after doing that. Then another time I ate 100 tablespoons of butter in 10 days. And interestingly, you would think that all that saturated fat would end up in my bloodstream as triglycerides, but my triglycerides went down and my insulin resistance improved after doing that. I ate 100 hamburgers in 10 days, or rather 100 hamburger patties, because I didn't want to eat a bunch of bread and carbohydrate to screw up my metabolism. And interestingly, my cholesterol went from 233 to 199, which is one of the lowest ones I've had in recent decades. And I don't really know why. I thought it would stay pretty much the same. And another interesting thing was the blood urea nitrogen, the BUN, which went from 16 to 10, even though I ate almost twice as much protein as I usually do. And the residue from protein is this nitrogen that we can measure in blood urea nitrogen. And when I mentioned in that video that I wasn't sure why that BUN went down, and I still don't, one of my viewers enlightened me and said, of course it went down because you ate the hamburger without the BUN. And if you notice, I put quotation marks around the word studies because I do that kind of tongue-in-cheek. I don't believe that these are good examples of research. This is actually pretty bad science, and I'm not claiming that it's anything else. And the reason is that the total sample population, meaning the number of people studied, is exactly one, namely myself. And it still costs a few $100 to do that. So the reason it's not great science is that I may not be like you. Whatever results I get could be different than yours, but I'm not claiming that it's good science or that I represent you. But guess what? When they do bigger studies, if they have a study with 10,000 people in them, and then they have 55% of people respond a certain way, that's going to create a trend. It's going to be statistically significant, probably, even though 4,500 people out of the 10,000 didn't respond that way. And I'm just making coarse, gross examples here to illustrate something. But the point is that it doesn't matter how big the study is, it may still not be like you. Okay? So you still have to figure out you. And the way that you do that is in these videos, I explain the mechanisms and the basic physiology so you can start understanding how the body works rather than just looking at one example, whether it's mine or somebody else's. And then you can look at your own blood work, or you could look at your own results in life, how you feel, your weight, your waistline, etc. And then you figure you out. But you can't do that unless you understand some mechanisms and some basic physiology. Let's look at some very simple facts. Eggs have cholesterol. Eggs have saturated fat. But the question then is, first, if we eat a bunch of eggs, does this mean that we raise our blood cholesterol? We don't know. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But if it did go up, would that be a bad thing? And here's the huge misconception that a lot of people think if it goes up, then that's bad. But in itself, it doesn't mean anything. We have to look at the bigger picture. Now let's take a look at the concept of conversion, of turning one thing into another. Because based on the prevailing truth about eggs, cholesterol, saturated fat, and heart disease, as a culture, we believe that dietary cholesterol leads to plaques, leads to atherosclerosis. So let's take an example. Let's make a comparison. So here we have an egg, which has obviously cholesterol, and then we have this theory that this leads to plaquing and atherosclerosis and narrowing of arteries. And this is basically how we think, based on these studies, the 7-country studies, that the cholesterol from here ends up as cholesterol in the plaque. It's the same cholesterol, more of this leads to more of that. But here is a question. Now, if we assume that maybe this isn't true, maybe there's some conversion going on, and let's ask a question that if in another example that we have a cow, and this cow has a body with some fat in it, with some saturated fat, with cholesterol in the fat. This cow produces milk from which we can make butter that has lots of fat, lots of saturated fat, lots of cholesterol. So if this cow is full of cholesterol, where did that come from? Is it because that cow ate a bunch of eggs with cholesterol? Did it eat a bunch of butter with cholesterol? Did it eat a bunch of meat? Does it go around eating the other cows? Is that how the cholesterol ends up in the cow? No. If this cow eats what it's supposed to, then all it eats is grass. Green grass, pure carbohydrates, basically. It has a trace amount of protein and fat in it. But basically, this cow eats grass that has no cholesterol, and yet it ends up with all that cholesterol in the body. So maybe if we understand that there's a conversion process, maybe that cholesterol in the plaque doesn't come from there. That's a possibility. And this conversion is also known as metabolism, which means to transform. So it's a form of transformation. So if we look at the things that we eat as humans, and we are, by the way, quite similar to a cow in that we both store fat, and we store it as about half saturated and about half monounsaturated. That's typical for the body fat of both a cow and a human. So the big groups, the big macronutrients that we eat are protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And protein, the purpose is to turn into tissue, to building blocks, to body parts, but the excess will actually turn into carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, in turn, can become fat, but it can't work the other way around. So we can convert things sometimes one way, but not necessarily both ways. And then all three of these turn into something called acetyl-CoA. And don't worry about the name, don't try to memorize any of this. I'm just trying to show you that we have something called conversion, metabolism, transformation. We eat these things, and along the way, they become something else. This is an intermediary metabolite that we use to make energy. So if we make energy from protein, carbs, or fat, it's because we can turn it into acetyl-CoA. But if we're really, really low on carbs, this acetyl-CoA can turn into something else depending on certain.
After not pooping for 3 days, my mom was rushed to the hospital to have a log of poop surgically removed from her colon.
Circumstances, depending on what's appropriate for the body, what it needs at that time. So if we're low on carbs, we can turn this acetyl-CoA into ketones. And this acetyl-CoA is also the raw material for cholesterol. So again, I'm just trying to show you that this cholesterol didn't necessarily come from cholesterol, that we can turn anything that we eat can turn into cholesterol if we need it. But here's the thing, it's really not a mystery anymore. Today we know what the cause of cardiovascular disease is, and it is chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and something called insulin resistance. I'm not going to go into depth here because I've done videos on all of this, and it's called metabolic syndrome or syndrome X. And this is a label, this is a concept. When we're metabolically unhealthy, then we have certain manifestations. And if we have abdominal obesity, hypertension, meaning high blood pressure, if we have high fasting glucose, if your body can't control blood glucose, as in type 2 diabetes, if we have high triglyceride, high blood fats, also very common in diabetes, if we have low HDL, the supposedly good cholesterol, which of course there is no good or bad, there's just appropriate and appropriate cholesterol, then if you have any 3 out of these 5, then they consider you to have metabolic syndrome. And then they know that you'll be predisposed to all these different problems of heart disease, etc. But the people with metabolic syndrome, what they really have is chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and insulin resistance. So these 3 things are the causes that we need to work on and that we need to control. And this is very, very well established. There's really no discussion or controversy about this at all. What there still is controversy about is which type of foods and what type of lifestyle will create these states that cause cardiovascular disease. But the question now in this video is, do eggs cause cardiovascular disease? So the question is, do eggs cause these 3 things? And the answer is no, they don't. There is nothing in there that causes insulin resistance or oxidative stress or inflammation. Unless you are allergic to them, then that becomes a bad food for you. Or if you combine the eggs with things like sugar, margarine, and chemicals. And this is the problem with a lot of the observational studies, like the 7 country studies, that he picked countries that had a high intake of saturated fat and cholesterol, but what else did they eat? Did they eat a bunch of sugar, margarine, and chemicals? How much did they smoke? Did they ever exercise? We don't know. But here's what we do know. High total cholesterol in itself does not cause heart disease. And here's an article that I've referenced once before, but it's so good I want to bring it back. So basically they looked at the total cholesterol levels. They only measured 2 things. They measured total cholesterol and how many people died. And this was a huge study because they did this in Korea over a decade or so. And it was basically everyone in Korea, more or less. So 12 million adults were part of this study. And it's not like the 7 country studies where they don't know all the variables, because here they were only interested in 2. They didn't care what else they did. They only looked at what happens with cholesterol and how many people die. Of all the people who died, what were their cholesterol levels? So they looked at 12.8 million adults, and they looked at all-cause mortality. So what that means is they didn't really care if the cholesterol caused heart disease or not. All they know, because you could maybe save a few people from heart disease, but if they die faster from something else, then that's not really a gain, is it? So all-cause mortality is pretty much what we're interested in. And here's the interesting thing that they found, that we're told that high cholesterol is bad, low cholesterol is good. And they give people statin drugs. I've had people come through my office on statin drugs with a cholesterol under 120. And they keep giving them the statin drug as if less is always better. But here's what we find on this graph is that low cholesterol is really, really bad. Like really low cholesterol is really bad. And if we compare that to very high cholesterol, we see that a cholesterol of 110, 120 is many, many times worse, much more likely to cause death than a cholesterol of 300. But when was the last time you saw a commercial for a medication to raise cholesterol? It's like, oh my God, your cholesterol is 120. We got to get you up into the 250s. They don't do that so much, do they? Because we have this bad idea that less is always better. And in fact, what we found in this study was that the sweet spot, the absolute lowest death rate, the optimal cholesterol would fall somewhere around 230. And if we looked at the area where they had a very slight increase above the lowest rate of death, like less than 10% increase above that lowest rate, we would consider that a pretty good odds. Then that gives us a pretty wide range where we are safe. So anywhere from 180 to 270 is a very slight increase in risk. And then we overlap that with the standard range, with the normal recommendations that we get all over the world, is that the cutoff is at 200. Anything over 200 is too high and you should take medication to control it. And if you notice here that what the study, the optimal range, where you have just a slight increase, falls almost entirely in the red area where you would be prescribed or recommended medication or lifestyle changes or both to lower your cholesterol. Now let's just add one more factor to this, because I think it's a great study, but remember, they only look at the total cholesterol and the total amount of death, all-cause mortality. But what we have to realize is that some of these people with high cholesterol were healthy and some of them were very unhealthy. And the other things that we just talked about that we know cause heart disease, that some of these people had those factors and some didn't. So what if we were to take this population, and I'm speaking hypothetically now, and we took all the people with abdominal obesity and we took them out of here, because we're trying to find out how does cholesterol affect death. If we now correct for the people who had abdominal obesity, which we know is a risk factor, and we also take out the people who have hypertension and high fasting glucose, high triglycerides, and low HDL, we know these are risk factors for heart disease. Let's take these people out. So now we isolate more for what cholesterol in itself actually does. And we also correct, we take the people out who have high insulin levels. Now we have a pure population where only cholesterol is a causative factor of death. And I believe, not that I've ever known that they've done this study, but I very strongly believe that if we corrected for this, then the curve would look like that. It would be almost flat. And I don't know, maybe around 5, 6, 7, 800 total cholesterol that it might go up for some other reason. But I think the majority of people with cholesterol in the 300 to 400 range, if we correct for this, which we can control through lifestyle, then we will not have an increased risk from cholesterol. And please hear me when I say that I'm not suggesting that 350 is any better than 250. What I am saying, the number of total cholesterol by itself is not what we want to look at. Now let's just go back to the actual causes that we talked about and see why do they cause heart disease, or why is part of the reason. So when we have insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and poor metabolic health, what happens in the body is that the LDL changes. It's not that LDL is bad, but we can change LDL into something bad if we have these factors present, because LDL is normally relatively large. I call it large and fluffy. That's how your liver produces it, large and fluffy. It actually comes from even larger lipoproteins that shrink down, and then if they're healthy.
How did you get off metformin? I use the 10-second peanut trick. What's the 10-second peanut trick? It's a delicious way to naturally stabilize your blood sugar. How does it naturally stabilize your blood sugar? Well, a study from Penn State and Stanford School of Medicine shows
healthy, they kind of fall into this range. But if we have these factors, these destructive factors present in the body, then they hurt, they damage these LDL particles and they shrink. So now this inflammation causes damage to the inside of your blood vessels, plus it makes these small LDLs unrecognizable. You can't recycle them properly, and they're small enough to go to the wrong places and create damage. So what I have found in clinical cases, we have done hundreds of these. We do blood work on everyone. We test the size of these in everyone so we can follow up and see what the changes are. And when we put people on a lifestyle change where they eat no sugar and no seed oils, no processed, damaged vegetable oils, we give them a high quality diet, meaning good quality meat, fish, chicken, good quality vegetables, low carb vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, and we combine that with intermittent fasting, meaning we restrict their feeding window so they don't eat every hour of every day. We feed them meat, vegetables, and yes, eggs, unless they are sensitive to eggs, then we take them out. And we also give them high quality fats. We give them extra virgin olive oil, lots of butter, lard, tallow, coconut oil, etc. Stable saturated fats, plus of course extra virgin olive oil, which is mostly mono unsaturated. Then what we find is we measure these sizes before and after, and we find that it goes the other way. That by making these lifestyle changes, you reduce the inflammation and the oxidative stress and the insulin resistance, and now the body can start to slowly cycle out, clean out these small damaged LDLs, and then the body, as it makes new and healthy ones, then the proportion of these small ones get fewer and fewer, less and less proportion. But then of course the question is, does that always work? Does this work 100% of the time? And the answer is no. Nothing works 100% of the time. And I put only here kind of as a joke because 90 to 95% is sensational, and yet that is kind of where we're getting. Maybe not in the first couple of months, maybe not the first time around. For a lot of people, probably 2/3 to 75%, they get dramatic changes like the first time through. But for others, we might have to play around with it and figure out what they're sensitive to. Is there an autoimmunity thing? Is there other things causing inflammation? But we need to put this in perspective, the only 90 to 95%, because there's something called placebo. And in a double-blind placebo-controlled study, they always have different groups. And they give one group a placebo, meaning something that looks like it's going to do something, but there's nothing in there. There's no active component in there. And yet, the placebo group always gets somewhere around 35% improvement. 35% of people notice improvement, even though they didn't get anything. So 35% is kind of the baseline. That's what you get no matter what, because when people believe that they're going to get better, they get better. And a success medication only has to be better than placebo. So if it's a very large study, all they have to show is that it's statistically significant that it's better than placebo. So 1 or 2 or 3 or 5% maybe better than placebo, and that's a sensational success for a medication. And if a medication can show maybe a 40% improvement, then they are super happy with that. That's a sensational result. But we, of course, are not happy with 40%. So we try to always get as close to 100 as we can. So now we want to start looking at other sources of inflammation. And this is where it gets tricky, because now it gets a little more complicated and a little bit more individual variation. But there are things like allergies, there is other toxicity, there is autoimmunity, and of course, gut issues. If you have inflammation in the gut, if you have poor absorption, if you have leaky gut, now we have lots of variables that might be hard to control, at least in the short term, that start affecting these numbers. But if we're patient enough and we're willing to continue to make changes and monitor blood work and check on these, then very often we can get to 99%. And that doesn't mean necessarily complete remission or that there are no symptoms left, but that we are much better off than we were. And then there is that last 1 to 2%, and this is very unfortunate, but some people are just given some bad cards, that there are various genetic factors that if you do all the things we talked about, you're still going to be way better off, but that may still not be enough. So the shocking truth about eggs and heart disease is that you have been lied to. We have all been lied to for much too long. For decades, they have been focusing all their attention on the wrong guy. They've been demonizing the hero, because it's not about total cholesterol. It's not about dietary cholesterol. It's not about saturated fats or how many eggs you eat. It is about metabolic health and all the factors that go into that, like insulin, toxicity, gut health, and the list goes on and on. And that's why we need to understand more about how the body works and how the world has changed, because the world has changed more in the last 50 years than it has in the previous 50,000. And we need to understand how does that affect us so that we don't just walk like lambs to the slaughter. So the solution is learn what real food is and eat that. And this includes eggs, as many as you like. Make sure to get good quality eggs, get the pastured eggs, and eat both the yolk and the egg white, unless you have been found to be sensitive or allergic to eggs, because then they're going to create inflammation and then they're bad for you. So everyone is different. Learn what works for you, but understand it from the mechanisms and the physiology. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love that one.
Okay. I just want to say, in response to what urologist Dr. Malik was saying in her video about benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, where she was saying there's not enough, or there's no randomized controlled studies to prove that any of these supplements really do work. I want to reflect on and repeat what Dr. Ekberg was saying, that, I mean, to do all these randomized studies, it's expensive. The double-blind, placebo, randomized, controlled studies are expensive, and the only people that can afford to do them, unfortunately, is the pharmaceutical industry. And they don't conduct these studies on these herbs and nutritional supplements, vitamins, minerals, whatever. They don't do it because they can't put a patent on Mother Nature and make a fortune off of it. That's why they don't do it. That's why they don't spend the money on doing them. So naturally, a medical doctor, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think her videos are great. A medical doctor, urologist, Dr. Malik, keeps on saying there's no randomized controlled studies to prove any of these supplements work, because they're just not done. It's not that they can't be done. It's not that they can't prove anything about these natural supplements. It's just that they're not done. And she does not say one word, if you notice, that is a discouraging word or critical towards the drug company by telling the truth about why they're not done. She didn't mention the pharmaceutical industry at all, because she's a medical doctor. As I just wanted to go through that. I just wanted to explain that in detail. That I got sidetracked before. I meant to do it earlier. But better late than never. But Dr. Ekberg, excellent video on eggs. And Dr. Stuart Berg, outstanding video on how to maintain and achieve the health of your eyes. Nutrients for eye health. Very good. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Thank you everyone for stopping by. Not just the viewers, but the Commodore Jeff Zambello, Masumi from Japan, Geordie from Scotland, Geordie K from Scotland, Brian Sook, okay, Daryl Messias. Thank you everyone for stopping by the show with your commentary participation. So enjoy your Sunday evening and have a safe and healthy upcoming week. This is Holistic Health Talk. James P. Madonna signing off. Have a good evening.